Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Welcome back to the show. Brandon Young. Most of you guys will know Brandon, of course. But Brandon, do you want to do a little introduction before we get into scaling?
Yeah, my wife and I are eight-figure sellers. We also teach. We have thousands of students that have taken master classes of ours. We have over 1,000 members in our private mastermind, the Inner Circle. Um, just love being on the show. Thanks, Danny.
You're more than welcome. Cool. Right. So the essence of today's show is we're going to be talking about scaling, and we're not going to just talk SOPs and stuff like that. I think if we kind of, like we've done in-depth and stuff on the podcast of various different people in the space, maybe kind of taking that approach to how you scaled, how you fumbled, how you recovered from it and stuff, and where you're getting to now. So let's start leading up to the first million and the difficulties that you reached there, because there's a massive difference as well between jumping between 1 million and 10 million. That's a massive jump. Like people say, the hardest money you'll make is your first 1 million, right? Then after that, it's a bit easier because you've got existing cash flow. You can get money from around you, institutions and stuff like that. And you've got the skill set to get to that next level. But it must be tremendously hard to, once you are scaling that, because it's not just financial, it's not just stock, it's the team. Are you a good enough manager? Do you need leadership, adapt your leadership skills to grow a bigger team? And should you be on the bus as a CEO and all that kind of stuff? So let's take it back to what, 15, 14? When did you start selling on Amazon?
So we started 15,
Yeah.
but we didn't do private label until 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's kick off in the private label part. I know that you had a bit of a rough ride in the very beginning, didn't you? When you moved over from, because we've covered that. If you listen back to, I don't know the show numbers, do a search at sellersessions.com or through one of the podcatchers and check out Brandon's in depth. We do cover some of the elements there. But talking about on the scaling side, obviously you moved out of wholesale, but it's very difficult to scale versus private label as well as one of the features. Yeah.
The biggest thing with wholesale for us was that the brands were starting to become gated, and you needed permission from the brands to start selling certain SKUs, certain brands.
Yeah, indeed. Cool. So let's start at 500,000. It'd be a bit easier because most of the listeners here are up in that range and above. So let's start at the 500,000 point, and then we'll start working through the years from there.
So I think that the biggest thing for us was really just trying to figure out what those processes were for a single product. We knew that if we could figure out what you needed to do throughout each of the entire life cycle of a product, what those different processes and movements and things you needed to do for one product, then you could duplicate that for many products, right?
Yeah.
So very early on, we were one of the first sellers of wireless chargers. And we were also one of the first sellers of true wireless earbuds on Amazon. And we just got lucky. We saw trends. We saw what was happening in the market. We found some decent suppliers. The true wireless earbuds, the Bluetooth technology wasn't quite good enough yet to sync the two earbuds. So what would happen is the right one would have a receiver in it from their phone and your music player. And then the left one would take the cue from the right one, but sometimes that would become off, and so people wouldn't hear them in sync, or the left one would stop working altogether. So our defect rate was over 10% on those, but the margin was so good that we could literally replace 20% of our orders and still make decent money. So we were selling those for a while and probably made about $500,000 profit between just that one product with 3 different colors. We had a silver, a black, and a rose gold, I think. And then the true wireless or the wireless chargers that we were doing, this is way before Samsung even released their wireless charger. We had square ones, round ones. We had fast, like super fast ones, slower ones, and we were doing really well. We were selling 70 plus units a day, and all of a sudden, our sales went to 2 a day or 4 a day, and we were wondering what happened. And it turns out we got attacked. So, on top of understanding how to find a product, develop it, we didn't really even understand at that time how to do proper keyword research, how to validate the product, how to understand the competitors. We knew that we were early, but we knew that it was a growing market, so we attacked it. And but we didn't know how to do PPC properly, and then we definitely didn't know how to defend against attacks. So those two products, and about that same time, we released a Bluetooth wireless waterproof speaker, and then that one ended up getting seized. Our second or third order got seized at the port, and it cost us, I think we had 4,000 to 6,000 units, and it cost us a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And we ended up abandoning that product. We didn't realize that Bluetooth was a trademark term and that you needed to pay a bunch of money to the Bluetooth organization to use it. And so we ended up in trouble there. So it was just a matter of figuring things out. I think we launched maybe a couple other products that had high defects rate. We had some cables that were splitters between the Lightning port, because that's right when the iPhone took away the audio cable. So we had a Lightning cable that came into an audio cable and into another input, so you could charge it while listening to music. We had that as well, and we sold maybe, I don't know, 50,000 of those cables at a pretty nice profit. We were landing them for $1 and selling them for like, $6 or $8. So what we found out is that we could do a lot of those things by ourselves. It was just Jennifer and I, really. And, I started moving away from the wholesale and into the private label side as when we started to have some issues there. But when we saw the upside, and we had to make some decisions on what types of products we would launch, and whether we wanted to go away from electronics altogether. We saw the trend that Shenzhen was becoming a monster of a place. We saw the incentives. She was ahead of that because she's Chinese. So she saw the news. She saw the government putting out these incentives. She saw the fact that these companies were willing to work on a very thin margin because they were getting the kickbacks from the government. And she said, electronics are going to be what we don't want to do moving forward.
Yeah.
And so that first year that we were doing just wholesale and or just private label, we did over $1 million in revenue with a couple products, and we didn't make any money. So when you talked about how you can make that first $1 million and now you have cash flow, it didn't work that way for us. We were like, okay, we were pretty much starting from scratch, but we had learned a lot from each product.
What kept you from going underwater was that you had fantastic margins on products, and each of those products that went sideways, there was still enough money in the kitty to break even and still be able to go again instead of being wiped out.
Yeah, I think that once we looked at the balance sheet, even if we had thrown the stranded inventory away in the trash, we would have, about broken even at that point at the end of the year, right? We did our accounting. And we said, okay, we've got to get better than this, and we got to find products that maybe aren't going to, we're not going to find the same level of competition. And we decided to get into soft goods at that time. We decided to get into, we started doing a diaper bag, and we started doing a travel bag, like a toiletry bag. And we found that at that time is when I started to figure out really keyword research. That's when I really started to understand and be able to answer the question, how are the current sellers getting their sales? And I started to aggregate, really take the approach of no one seller is really good at Amazon. And if I take that mentality into it and I look at the top 10 or 20 sellers, I'm going to really understand that each of them are getting their sales from different places. There might be an overlap. There usually is an overlap, but there's usually a lot of extra detail from if you take the aggregate. And then that became the crux of our product decision, process. Are there a lot of keywords that drive sales? Are the current sellers doing a good job, ranking for all of those different types of keywords? And then that's when we really thought of that term root that we use, which is like, what are the repeated words that are used? Because if you think about a toiletry bag, there's 4 or 5 different ways people call it, depending on where you live in the world and in the country. So some people call it a bathroom bag. Some people call it a travel bag. Some people call it a DOP kit. Some people call it a toiletry bag, right? And so what we found is that you would have good sellers on DOP kit, but you would have other sellers on toiletry bag, and you'd have different sellers on hanging bathroom bag, and you would have all these different groups of sellers that were all doing really well. And our thesis was, what if we really just targeted all of those and wrote all of those in our listing and in our title and tried to, and we crushed it. Like we were, the best selling bag for a very long time. And we still to this day have 4 different brands of toiletry bags ranked on the first page for most of those keywords, because we decided to diversify into other accounts, other brands, other designs to take up more real estate. And it became something that we developed over the next couple of years. Based on what we had discovered with just one product, and we decided to double down.
So just to round off that section of year one, let's call it, because that's 2016, the switch over in electronics, made about $500,000, did $1 million, broke even because of all the problems that you face. What was the biggest learnings from that year going into the soft bags, etc., into 2017?
Yeah, we still had some other failures in there, right? We tried to launch a toy.
You like the gift that keeps on giving. He's still here, but we still had more failures in there. But yeah, go on.
Some of the biggest failures that really tilted it for us, there were two. The 2 failures that led to us really understanding the keywords were a toy that lights up. It's like a lighted brick set that you could build into a few different types of things. Like you could build the same set into a car or a plane, for example, and it lights up, right? There's a major brand out there that does something similar, and that isn't Lego. And so we had seen that, and I was like, that's a cool toy. I bet if we can get that in front of people, then people would buy it. That was the big breakthrough for us, which was realizing that I couldn't get it in front of people, right? Like, what are the keywords that I can rank for that I can legitimately stay ranked for? So if no one's going to search for Brandon's Bricks. That wasn't the name of the brand, but they're not going to search for that. And if they search for Lego, they want Lego. So I'm not going to stay ranked for Lego because no one's going to click and buy it. And then if I'm targeting this other brand that's a major brand as well, they have so many SKUs that they were really taking up most of the first page. So I would have to outperform even their worst sellers. And we could get some sales from there. But the reality was a lot of people weren't even purchasing that other major, quote unquote, major brand. It was mostly sold in retail. And it just didn't give us enough visibility. So we sold, we had done some giveaways. This is when you were doing giveaways for launch. I'd maybe given away 10 or 15 units. You were allowed to ask for reviews at that time. This is still really early on before they switched that policy. So I'd given away maybe 10 or 15, 20 units. And then we sold a handful of units. And that's when I really just figured it out. I was like, yeah, I didn't have a plan for getting this in front of people ranked for real estate for keywords that had real search volume and I could realistically rank for. And it was like a light going off. The same thing happened. Similar thing happened with wireless. Another breakthrough. We had noise canceling, active noise canceling headphones. I'm looking at a pair of them here. And we landed the product at close to $45. We invested really heavily into the design and the quality of it. And this is when active noise canceling wasn't a thing yet. Like we were still in that we're ahead of the trend type of thing where like we were doing with the wireless chargers and the true wireless earbuds. And so we landed, 1,000 units, and it was like it wasn't quite 1,000. I think our all in, it was 1,000 units, $45,000 we invested in this product. And I launched it, and I was targeting wireless headphones, and I was targeting active noise canceling wireless headphones. I didn't realize at that time the search volume for active noise canceling headphones was probably only a few hundred searches a month. No one really knew it was a thing, and it was a very, very niche thing. And there's no way you can rank $100 set of headphones that aren't Bose on wireless headphones, because the entire first page was dominated by $15, $20, $12 headphones. And so those are going to get the majority of the clicks. Those are going to get the majority of the a much better click-through rate, a much better conversion rate. And that's when I started to really figure out the ranking algorithm too, because I was propping that product up and I was making a few sales, but it wasn't enough to outperform my competitors. And I realized that performance was a major metric. And so I really started to dig in and do the research and understand the data at that point. So that was another big breakthrough for a couple of reasons. One is to understand how to stay ranked well and how how your performance relative to your competition will keep you ranked well for a keyword. So it's not so much as understanding that there are keywords you can rank for. That breakthrough was more about understanding whether you can realistically stay ranked for those keywords, right? So those 2 losses that we took, they were giant L's. Those 2 losses that we took have resulted in us making millions of dollars now.
Yeah, because you push through. So were you working doing other stuff then, or was you both all in, no other revenue coming from other income streams at that point?
No, we were 100% Amazon at that point, and it was the minor successes that kept us afloat, that could absorb those losses. We were very lucky in that aspect. We had a little bit of money from other places that we could invest into the company. I remember early on, when we started to have some success with some of the bags, and some of the other SKUs we started to launch at that point. We started launching our first toy brand in 2018. We started a new account and we started launching toys. We took some loans from Cabbage when Cabbage was giving loans. We took a couple, like Amazon just started offering loans to us at that time too. So we were able to get capital to grow the business at that point, and to really just, we had started to really figure out that whole process of idea to product development to logistics, landing, content, and launch. And we said, okay, well, our goal this year, I think in 2018, we made a goal where we were going to launch 5 products a month.
Yeah. So we're at 18 now. So we've covered 17 soft bags. We still went back to 16 with the electronics and stuff. So what was the pivot for you for toys? Why did toys come up as the option? Because it's just a vast amount. I mean, I remember seeing a few years ago that you were walking around the toy factory and it was just like huge, and you were just walking around testing, that looks right, that looks right. So not just ideas, but to get that level of scalability to do 5 products a month is quite intensive, isn't it, in terms of all the development work and stuff. But was that one of the reasons that you chose toys, and 2 is because the availability of so much variation on toys that it is worth going into that category in order to get the scale?
Toys are such a unique space because you usually have a combination of very specific keywords and very generic keywords. And we had some success very early on with some of our first toys. We decided to try outside of the bricks, like, but when we first took on this brand and we decided to create a toy brand, we did some educational toys, and I found maybe 25 keywords that I liked, 4 different routes, and then I found like 3 or 4 generic keywords. And I said, if the design is good enough and our price point is good enough, I really think we can hit those generic keywords and do well. And so we said, all right, well, let's try it. And we ordered 1,000 units of a music toy, and we hit like baby music toys or something, right? And we hit those other more specific keywords, and we were selling 40 units a day within 2 weeks of launch. And for us, I was like, no one's going to come after this niche, right? Like, we were one of the best sellers immediately, and it wasn't enough. Like, it was outside of Shenzhen because it's over in Shantou where the toys are made, and those Shenzhen sellers weren't interested in anything that wasn't selling 100 to 300, 500 units a day. And so I said, this is going to stay small enough to where those other sellers aren't going to come in and try to kill you. And you have to really understand keywords. You have to really understand what you're doing in order to win in toys. I said, this is going to be good for us. We need to really double down. We're not going to be right all the time, but I think when we're right, we're going to make a lot of money. And so that was kind of our breakthrough with toys. And so at that time, and going into the end of 2018, we crushed Christmas. We were just so surprised that like all year round, we would sell 20 to 40 units a day of a product. And then come into Christmas, we ordered an extra, I think, 7,000 units, 5,000 to 7,000 units our first Christmas. We sold out before December 1st. And I said, we weren't prepared for the velocity that you can get in the Christmas time. And so I said, man, it's very seasonal. It's going to be very cash flow intensive, but there's so much opportunity here in toys that we need to really just double down and probably create a real brand at this point and really focus. So from 2019 on, coming into Q1, I think we've, 90+% of the products we've launched have been in the toy space.
Yeah. And so with going back to the keywords again, was it that you felt you discovered, like you said, there's more the specific and the dialed in keywords? Yeah. So there's the general specific keywords to that niche. Do you think it as well, because the show's about scale, right? So that you can't scale in every category. You have to find the mechanics first before you even get the product to market. Well, you'll find out market. What I mean is, for the continuation, is that if you really want to scale out, you've just got to be able to put out a huge amount of products at a good speed, good price, and everything else. But are you literally working off the same base of keywords generally each launch? So nearly their replication. So you're kind of dominating, or is it there's a lot more niche down elements in terms of the products that you produce?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more niche down. So, you're going to find that every toy will have a percentage of their search volume split amongst dozens of keywords that are very specific to that product. The more that are more specific to the product, the better for us, generally, because those generic keywords are less reliable. You're going to hit them sometimes, you're not going to hit them sometimes. And so you can't rely on those. But when you, like, if you order enough inventory to be able to really push at those and you do hit it, you're talking about a sub 1,000 toy in the toy category. Yeah, that's going to be a product that makes you a lot of money over, over a long period of time, if you can, really understand how to do the maintenance at that point. The bottleneck for us, and that's why you saw the videos when we would go to Shantou and we would go to these showrooms and we would walk around and we would fill up shopping carts of potential products. And really it was my aspect of understanding American culture, because that's who we're selling to. And that was the advantage that we had over the Chinese sellers that might go to those same showrooms, because they're walking around those halls. They're not understanding the mentality of an American kid, right? And so I'm able to say, you know what, that's a cool freaking toy. I wonder how people are searching for that, right? That's my mentality. So I would take that product and I would have the person that's following us around scan it, put it in the cart. And then once that cart is filled, it's waiting for us downstairs in a playroom, basically, in a test room. And then while Jennifer's sitting in there, like, we would have 8 shopping carts full of toys in this room. And let's talk about fun. I'm getting paid to do this shit, right? So while Jennifer's sitting there playing with the toys and trying to break it and trying to evaluate the quality of the toy, I'm sitting there doing keyword research and understanding how many are the competitors selling, how are they getting their sales. And at that point, we had really started to develop a master keyword list, and we had started to understand how to really aggregate that data in a readable way to give us an accurate idea of whether that product was worth doing or not. And I tell you, we really, our batting average was really high, but we would walk away. We would spend a week there, 14-hour days sitting there, and they would feed us. They would give us all the drinks we wanted, all the food we wanted, and they would give us service. But we would start early. We'd leave late, and then we'd go back and do it the next day. But by sitting there and evaluating 1,000+ toys, we'd walk away with 80 orders, right? Because we were calling the factories. The factories were in the same town. So we would get a toy that we really liked, but we wanted to change something about it. We wanted to customize it. We wanted to do something different. And so we would call the factory, and the owner of the factory would actually show up and bring his engineer. And we would talk to him, and we'd say, you know what would be cooler is this. This is your current packaging. We need packaging that's more compressed for e-commerce to save us money. We want to take away this accessory because it puts us over 12 ounces and increases our fulfillment rate. We want to just put these pieces together, because you would find people that would, at the time, we hadn't started doing beach toys, but we do them a little bit now. And so the last trip we took, I remember sitting there with a scale, and we have a beach toy manufacturer who's got 20 different buckets, 50 different shovels, a bunch of different accessories that he makes, a bunch of different castle molds, right? And I'm like, okay, I want this bucket, this castle mold set, because they come in one mold, but there's 5 pieces. So we put that in the bucket, and I'm like, okay, I'll take this shovel and this rake. Okay, that's 11 ounces. And then we put it in a net, and net weighs almost nothing, right? And so now we're under 12 ounces. And I said, okay, I want this set. This set right here costs us $3 landed, we can sell it for $11. Our best competitor is going to sell it for 16 because they're 12 ounces. And we're making just the same amount of profit as them, selling it, $3-4 cheaper. Now Amazon changed to dimensional weight, so that doesn't work anymore. And now all the beach toys are very expensive on Amazon, which I think is a huge problem. We can have another whole show about that because they're not going to be able to compete on those cheaper, bigger products anymore. But so it was the combination of understanding what the bottleneck was. Well, product development, well, we need to go there, right? We need to go sit there. Validation, well, we need to do the keyword research, and we need to validate the product. Design, quality, okay, well, we're there in the factory. We have boots on the ground. We hired an agency to help us with inspections, corresponding with those factories.
And the two cultures, where your American culture is who you're selling into, and your wife can easily communicate with the Chinese in Chinese as well.
Yeah, that was a big thing for us. So any one individual at that point is already overwhelmed. They're not going to be able to do it, right? But it's two of us, and then we added the assistance of someone to help. I'm still at this point handling all the content writing, all the launches, and it wasn't until 2019 that we hired 2 people in China. And I have a warehouse manager here and someone doing customer service, the basic low-hanging fruit stuff. But for the most part, it was my wife and I, and for the first few years, right? And just understanding, even at that point, we had launched, our goal was 4 products a month. We keep about half of them, so we only have 25 active SKUs maybe at that point, and it's still both of us just managing it.
Yeah. Antonio's got a question. It's the same thing we're going to cover just now. I was going to say backdate. So 16, 17, 18, who is your first employee that you brought on, or even if it's a full-time freelancer in a different territory?
Yeah, so we had the assistance of this. They're like brokers, but they're a little different. They're a lot more hands-on, and they really helped us with again, those inspections, making sure the orders were right, and our logistics. So when Jennifer was in constant communication with them, and they were in constant communication with the different factories we were dealing with, and they would help consolidate into containers. We had a logistics agent on one side, we had the broker on another, we had Jennifer communicating with both of them. And then on my end, I'm basically on this end, worrying about, okay, when's it going to land? What's the content look like? Giving feedback on images. I think at that point we were still outsourcing content. We had a photographer in China that we would have the toys sent to. So before they even landed here, they would have images from every angle, all the raw images. And then we were sending all those raw images to a designer we found on Upwork, who was doing all of our product images. We would give feedback and go through iterations there. And we took her off of Upwork, and we had her working pretty much on just our stuff for a while, until she got a better offer from a big agency. And then I would say 2019 was the first time that we really hired a full-time person. And so we were just all in at that point. And I was starting
2019, what was year-end revenue for 2019? We covered 16. Have we really talked revenue past it? Done 1,016,000, made $500,000, lost a lot in terms of products. What did we do 17, 18?
17, we were winding down. We didn't do much wholesale 17, I don't think. We probably did a couple million, 2 to 3 million in 17. 18, we did around 5 to 6. And then 19 is when we were aiming for 8 figures. We launched the other account in 18 between the two accounts. But we had some growing pains in 19. It was really tough. This is when we really needed to flex up and understand the team. We had some shortages on logistics. We definitely, this is when we started to really focus. This is why we hired our first 2 full-time people in 19. Yeah, I want to go back and look. I know in 20 we did over 10. 21 we did over 15. And on this year, we're aiming for 25. We're probably gonna raise that. Our goal is 20. Our goal was 25 going into the year, and I think we're gonna do well over that. I think we'll do close to 30.
Cool. Let's go back to 19. Let's talk about the struggles, because obviously it sounds
Yeah.
like you got to the point, cash crunch, team crunch, and you want to scale, but you're in between those two modes, right? Because you need to finance the scale. Obviously, cabbage came into play in that in 18. But what
Yeah.
was the problems with 19? And I'm going to be cheeky and ask this question. Obviously, you do courses and stuff like that. Maybe that's helped as well in terms of cash flow. Although you're educating and you give good value and stuff, that become another source of revenue, I'm sure, from your knowledge, you know?
Well, 100%. Like so the income that I've made from coaching, I've reinvested into our businesses for sure.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been able to help us finance the growth, right? Even if you have successful SKUs and you're making a little bit of profit, it's really hard to go from 3 to 10 million in inside a year and a half without having outside capital. So capital enablers and capital are like, you call them enablers. What are the things you need to go to that next level? And so it was like 21, the end of 20 is when we hired our CEO coach. We had him all of last year. And it was really what allowed us to set up the organization in a way that we can go to 50 million, because there's certain things you need to put into place, and the business organization the org chart needs to change. Who you have on the team needs to change. Your goals need to change. And the way you operate your business needs to change. And so at every one of those levels as well. So even if it was Jennifer and I could get to 5 and 6 million by ourselves, really killing ourselves, right? But working insane hours, the assistants at that point with some really reliable people that were helping us on the China side, the photographer side, the customer service side. It was really Jennifer and I, and then a few of those extra assistants, right? So the org chart at that point is like you and some specialists. That can get you to $3 to $6 million in this business, which is phenomenal. You can get to you and a VA or $2 to $3 million. Is what that means. And I've seen it done by a bunch of my students as well. So for us, I think that the way that we flexed up in 2018 was really lean on a few of those specialists and understand where the bottleneck was in our business. The coaching started in 2018, at the end of 2018. So we weren't able to use the capital at that point. We weren't making much. And in 2019, I didn't make a ton coaching, teaching. 2020 was good for us in coaching. 2021, was very good for us in coaching. So but we've been able to reinvest that, right? Like it's loans to the business.
Yeah. And so let's carry on from 19, bit of a struggle. You got the coach in place. Did you have to you haven't grown the team, whereas, if you're a CEO of a startup, you're right to get to 10 to 15, then it's different when you get to 100. And then some people are like, I'm out. I don't want to be at 500 and 1,000. But you haven't had those worries, right? Because that's not what you're growing to. But what were the fundamental things, other than some guidance in terms of what you should do next, and then you go off and implement it, in terms of your mindset, and what are some of the key things of doing that year of coaching, the benefits on your business? Was it huge, marginal, or?
Huge. Yeah, absolutely huge. Jennifer and I aren't built in a way that we just understand operating. I've taken classes, we're both college educated. We, degrees in finance. She has 2 degrees in computer science and a degree in finance. So we kind of know what we're doing.
Yeah,
but that's much different than actually.
There's a difference, isn't it? Right. Most people can come good at stuff if they have a lot of interest in it, because it's easy to get up on them mornings you don't want to get up when you love what you do. Right.
Yeah,
I hate
like if we didn't like what we were
operations.
doing, we would have given up a long time ago. We work insane hours. You know how late I stay up and how early I get up, and you see I'm at the
You're
office
worse than
most
me.
of the time.
Yeah.
So so here's what we were, where we were at when we hired the coach. I think we had 8 employees in China. We still had the assistance of the of that brokerage, so as a partner, and then who's basically assisting with the ordering and that we're going through. But our team is back and forth a lot more often there, and we didn't understand how to go at that point from 10 to 50 million. Like, we were struggling. We were trying to figure out how to structure the organization in a way that information flowed from one specialist to another, and how to hire the right people, and then how to make sure we were hiring the right people, right? So that was a big part for us, was laying out the org chart really for the first time, because I had done it. I had done it in my head, but I hadn't really actually driven out what are the KPIs for every seat. What are the different seats we have? What are the seats that we want to have in 18 months? And then who is doing what, right? And so we had salespeople that were in charge of 20 SKUs, or so. We had to train them on PPC. They're doing everything, right? PPC, they're looking at the competitors every day. They have a whole checklist of things they need to do. And, you're bringing in someone fresh and you're trying to teach them how to do PPC on Amazon, even though, they may have worked at another company that was doing Amazon. It doesn't work, right? So we really had some struggles where products were being killed by some of our own employees. And that was some of the struggles for us, is that, we would hand a product to somebody, and if Jennifer and I didn't stay on top of it, it would just dwindle away. And so we had some margin compression. We had some products that were fading away that should have survived. And we would look at that issue and we would say, okay, well, what's the failure here? What are they doing wrong? And I was so busy on my side at that point, because we had divided up. I'm CEO of coaching, she's CEO of brands, that I needed to get back involved and translate some of that training and really get hands-on, so that we could get the team back up and running in a way. So the coach really, really helped us drive out how to get everyone rowing in the same direction, how to set goals, how to work backwards from leading activities. So how to understand the value levers in the business, how to understand what goal to set based on valuation, based on revenue, whatever you want to set it at, and then understand. So the biggest example for us was that we wanted to hit a revenue goal. Okay, well, revenue is only made up of two things on Amazon: new SKUs and old SKUs. What are your old SKUs going to do? The difference between those two numbers is what the new SKUs need to do. And then, so what do you need to do? What are the activities you need to do to launch SKUs? And then you can work backwards from there. So it worked out really well for us to really start understanding how to build out that product development org chart. The content team was huge for us when we built them out in 2018, 2019. We saw a major difference in productivity and conversion rates, and answered some of those questions, why some of our people were killing their SKUs. They didn't understand that they needed to update content. They needed to test new things. And so we put in testing measures and A/B testing, and everything's about, constantly trying to improve that content side. Driving outside traffic, when that was, people were starting to do that a lot more. We were experimenting, doing ManyChat, bringing in, building a list, doing those things. So that was still handled over here. And that was something I had to take the lead on, because team in China that barely speaks any English isn't going to be able to run ManyChat and run ads on Facebook and stuff.
You was a big proponent of that. You done a lot of ManyChat, didn't you, until the massive changes. And I remember you was on the podcast, you were pissed, weren't you? I can't remember exactly what it is, but something changed overnight and it just killed everything. I think it might be some restriction on messaging. I
was a huge proponent of ManyChat. I thought that it was an amazing opportunity to build an audience. I'm all about brand building and audience building and understanding how to engage with that audience. And I thought ManyChat, if you could store your audience in ManyChat and engage with them regularly, that was a game changer. And so we took advantage of that. We built up 10,000 plus people in ManyChat. We swept some of them to a private group, but for the most part, we had them there. And then overnight, Facebook Messenger changes their rules about re-messaging those people. Putting into place different rules, so we lost all that effort. We lost all of that time we had spent developing and building up a relationship with those people, and overnight we just couldn't message them again.
So Antonio says, my struggle exactly with building a team in Brazil, limited Amazon knowledge times language barrier. So what's next then from there? We're at what? We keep going, creeping up because we've done the revenue numbers. I think we're as midpoint of 2019. We're talking about the coach. Let's get to 2020. You've come out of that little arc, little dip there to get things under control. You said 2020 was a lot easier. What were some of the key components of 2020 that helped with scaling?
Yeah, we hadn't quite gotten the coach until we got the coach end of 2020, end of 2020. But in 2020, we scaled up the team in China. We focused on content more than almost anything.
Yeah.
That's when Messenger was still really allowed and a thing. So that was good for us. We were building up a list. We could lean on that list for product launches. We didn't once you got to your list to a certain size, you didn't even need to give the product away anymore. And you could just send out a blast basically. And you could offer a discount, right? Like, a smaller than full rebate. And the goal was to build up the list to a point to create, even at that point, we're really focusing on toys. So we're trying to create a birthday club. We're trying to create a rewards program, product tester club, all these different things that we would call it. And we would sweep them to our Shopify site, try to get their information so that we could be back in touch with them through email and touch them in different ways. And then Messenger turned off. we lost that. But for the most part, 2020 was more about just doing more of the same. We had nailed product discovery and product research. We understood what percentage our success rate was on launching products. And it was just about, okay, how many products can we handle from a capital perspective and from a people perspective? Mm-hmm. So it was really, we thought at that point that if we just kept hiring as we needed to manage SKUs, that we'd be okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily the case.
Yeah. And 2020, Big C arrived, didn't it?
Yeah. That was a really big thing. So we had like a Q4 type time for toys in because of COVID. All the parents staying home, all the lockdowns, people are buying toys and for their kids. So we saw a huge spike in products, but at the same time, our travel brand got crushed. So our brands, we had, so we have we took a hit on one side, but we made up for it on the other side.
Yeah. So then we're moving to 2021 as we move up. What was some of the things? But how big's the team at end of 2020? How many team? 30, 35? In terms of the full-time freelancers as well?
No, I think that's when, we were probably at 20 total with everybody that was assisting in different places. Sitting in our office was still probably under 12. And then, but we had over 20 at that point with different positions, different people helping us full-time.
And 2020 is when you first hit 10 million, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then moving into 2021.
That was our first time hitting 10 million.
Yeah.
And
then, go on, sorry.
No. And yeah, so once we hit 10 million, we were thinking, okay, well, how are we going to hit 30? And we were really feeling a lot of those organizational crunches. We were starting to really feel how the issues that you have when you try to scale. And it was just a giant unorganized mess of, I just keep adding SKUs and just keep repeating the processes, but it doesn't work that way. You need accountability. Once you grow the team to a certain size, you need training measures. You need processes for that. You need hiring processes. So it was the first time that we hired an HR person. We hired a full-time CPA within the company. We hired we hired a management level, or we promoted to management level a couple of the people that were already working for us. And we found out later that one of them isn't a good manager, but he's a much better doer than manager. And so that was the thing, like figuring out how to evaluate that. So this is what the coach really helped us with was, okay, well, now you're a real company. Let's list out all the activities that you have to do just to run a company this size. What are all the activities that you have to do that are value levers for you? Like, so you have to draw out that taxonomy of value, we call it. So you have basically everything, every activity you do, and everything you do that generates revenue or value for the company. So valuations at the top, you have revenue, you have profit, you have other capabilities, so IP and product development and different unique things that you do, audience building, brand building, goodwill, things like that. And then, so underneath each of those trees or those branches, again, on the revenue side, it's very easy. You have new SKUs, old SKUs, and then you have the different things you need to do there. So, and everything's a formula in this sheet. So once we laid that out and we understood what are the different things that drive value for the company, we were able to understand, do we have the right people to do all these activities? And the answer is no. We were super understaffed and really just flying by the seat of our pants. And there's no way we could scale the business to, 15, 25 million, 50 million at that point. And at first it was like a Band-Aid. When we first talked to the coach, it was like, what are the immediate hires we need? What are the immediate things we need to do? And so throughout 2021, we started to really scale the team and focus on team building. And that's last year we did, 15 plus million, around that range. And so we realized about October that there's no way this same org chart that we thought we were solving the problem with can go to 50. And so now we're in a position where we need a COO. We need someone that is going to be another layer between Jennifer and that team. And we need the full-time HR person has been phenomenal for us, and the full-time CPA has been phenomenal for us. And we needed to double down in those departments. So now we have a bookkeeper and a CPA. Our content team has grown from 4 to 6 people. We have a full-time videographer, 3 full-time designers, and 2 full-time photographers, basically. So it's just each of these departments becoming layers becomes more complex, requires more management. And it's not as simple as just hiring someone and telling them to go do and hoping that they just do their job in what they're told. You need to check in with them regularly, understand the progress, understand what they're doing, make adjustments. And so the more people you hire, the more time it requires of your time. So if you're doing a crucial role in the company, there's no way you can continue to do that crucial role and do in your business and do those activities and then also manage those other doers. Right?
Well, you were in charge of a lot of launches back then. Was it, if I remember rightly, you're pulling your hair out, you've got dozens of launches taking place.
Yeah.
And then you're doing all these other things in terms of checking all the boxes with the teams and dealing and serving their needs as well to keep them moving and on track.
Yeah, because at that point I'm doing the content writing. I think last year we hired a content writer. She's part-time, but hourly, but she's really good. To alleviate that part of it, we hired a full-time marketing person for the first time who's assisting with marketing strategy and helping with branding and things that I was normally doing. So I've been replacing myself in the company more and more, but overseeing the strategy behind it. And then the team has started to take over the launches since it's just PPC now. And because of Data Dive, really that was like the biggest thing for me was the training to create a good master keyword list was very difficult for someone that doesn't speak the language. But now that Data Dive does it in 2 minutes, it can be done multiple times, and the same team member, even if they don't get it right the first time, can just go redo it very quickly, right? So it's something where I can look at it, take a glance at it, make sure it's right, make sure they selected the right competitors, right? Because the data is only good as the competitors you choose. And so they can then take that data and hand it to the content writer, and the content writer can be trained on how to write for optimization while using their writing skills to make it readable and to speak to the buyer. And so, by putting the right people in the right places and having the access to the tools, that's why we're increasing how much we think we're going to do this year. Those were the growing pains we needed to get through.
So effectively, if I'm right, the early stages of training everyone, there's a lot of SOPs and everything else that led to building out the course, right? Because you had a lot of content pre-written and you adapted as you went.
Yeah, and even stuff that I had only in my head, I had to get out
Yeah.
right? Like it made me better because I had to create SOPs, or I had to create these videos and these SOPs around things I was just doing
Yeah.
that, you know, I wasn't fully documenting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously now with Data Dive, that all comes from the back of your processes anyway, and what's missing in the market. Have you hired a load of engineers for Data Dive now?
Yeah, a lot.
Where are you with that?
I got to tell you how that came about too, because it's
Yeah.
so lucky. So Florin, who is the CTO of Data Dive, 25 plus years C-level experience in enterprise software. He's running the team that takes over a publicly traded company that buys SaaS softwares and then fires everybody and then hands it to him to take over at a third the cost, right? So he has to dive into the code and into the company and understand how to run it and put the right people in the right seats and improve it. Brilliant guy. And so he's basically retiring from being an engineer because he and his wife decide the kid's going to college, they want to spend more time together. What can they do? They want to start an Amazon business as the thing that they're going to do together. So they join Seller Systems in the inner circle to learn how to do Amazon.
See,
And
this
so
is how
he
you build
sees,
your network, right? You've got an engineer and you know, heading up the team there, and knows, funny enough, was being a student on the course.
yeah, my content writer is the daughter of one of my students as well, right?
Yeah.
And so I often post in the inner circle before when I want to hire someone because, you know, and I'm hiring someone for Data Dive full time that's also in the inner circle. It gives me a great idea as to their performance, their level of knowledge. It gives me a great place to find talent, right? So, but he comes in and he says all of these processes need to become automated. They need to become a software. And so he starts working and developing sheets like macros and sheets and automations to do all of our processes for product discovery, for keyword research. And that just grew and grew, and to the point where I was like, okay, I need to take over and buy this and really put the money behind it to make it a real thing.
Yeah. So where do you think you can compete with that? Obviously, you've got money. I don't want to sidetrack from the scaling, but software has the scale as well. It's no good just building it. There's a shit ton of software out there with less than 50 users, right? And it goes back to that Pareto's law, maybe 20% do something, and then you've got the top 3% of what everyone knows, that's got users. So how do you think for that? Obviously, you've got a very good guy on board who knows what he's doing. You've got the funds to put behind it. Where do you see, what level do you see Data Dive reaching with inside of the community, if you like? Will it be a Jungle Scout Helium 10, or will it be like a mid-tier? Where do you think it's going?
Yeah, I think we have really big plans for it. So our vision for it is that we're really going to, so we have 25 programmers working on it right now. I've taken what I've learned from my CEO coach and from scaling our Amazon business, and I've implemented a lot of it. And I brought my CEO coach to help me do this as well. And I've brought on a COO. I've brought on a fractional HR person, because if you look at, and I've created an org chart, I've created goals, and I've created like a list of things we want to develop out. And so we have to do marketing. We have to do business development. We have to do outreach. We have to do sales, right? We have to do those basic things that everyone knows about. But how do you do them well? How do you set the right goals? How do you keep accountability? How do you what are those leading activities you need to do on a daily basis that are going to row everybody towards those goals? So I've laid all of that out for the year. Our biggest thing is that we think we're in a unique position to do PPC because we can upstream from keyword research to PPC automation. Most people, when they do PPC, they're kind of stuck in their own box. They'll do their own research and then they'll seed it. And then they take the data and they're iterating on the data. We understand our approach to PPC that we teach in the inner circle is that the two most important things are your organic keyword ranks and your tacos. So if you understand how to set rules based on those two things, and understand how the algorithm works, which you've done a lot of research on, and you understand that match type matters, you understand that root keywords matter, you understand how attribution of micro events contribute to potential to rank on thousands of keywords, then you want to also understand that there's optimization opportunities on rewriting listings, on content. So No one out there is doing that holistic picture with a software that starts with the proper keyword research, understanding of the algorithm, setting of the right rules, tracking the keyword ranks. And so I don't want to give more than this, but you understand where it's going. And so in the next 6 to 12 months, just today we're releasing a new update where you can select root keywords and launch campaigns. You can click a button and get an upload file to launch hundreds of campaigns, PPC campaigns with targeting just one root, right? And then you can track the performance, the impact, using a keyword tracker like Helium 10. You can track the impact of your organic keyword ranks from just those campaigns. And so you can start to slice up and see the impact. But within the next 6 to 9 months, a lot of this is going to just continue to be built out in a way that's going to make it much easier to set rules to understand or impact your bottom line and the performance of your product. So that's the goal for Data Dive. It's much more than product discovery, validation, and optimization from a writing perspective. It's going to become a performance software as well on the PPC side.
Well, going back to, you mentioned earlier on with A9, I've rewritten a whole lot of that stuff so it can be presented in a better way. 1, 2, I've doubled the amount of content because I've covered a lot more features, including what you just said. I talk about match, and inside the algorithm, there's a process called matching, which is textual matching and behavioral matching. And I've gone quite in depth with that. So you're definitely on point in terms of with regards to matching, but you're talking in the PPC sense as well. But when we're talking about
it works for both, right? Like so organic and PPC.
Yeah.
So I guess one of my superpowers is that I can take very complex things and explain it in a way that people can understand, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a million things going on, and when you say algorithm, most people's eyes glaze over and they stop listening.
Yeah.
So the way that I relate it is this: when you have a listing, you have your, it's like a bank. Every single SKU is a bank. Every single ASIN is a bank, and then all of your keywords are bank accounts. And so every single time there's a micro action, every single time someone clicks on your listing, views your reviews, adds your product to cart, purchases your product,
conversion on the continuum, microcredits.
Yeah, you're getting micro credits in all those bank accounts, and every bank account is a different keyword, right?
Yeah.
Now, how you can cash those in to maximize your ranking opportunities is what we care about. So that's what we call ranking juice, right? So you're getting ranking juice in your accounts, but how do you cash that ranking juice out, right? So the maximum ranking juice you can cash out might be 1,000. I'm just going to give you a number just to make it easy to understand. But you only have 500 in the account. 500 in the account is relative to your competition for that keyword. Everything's always relative. 500 might be enough to rank number 3 for that keyword. Maybe the second guy has 700, the next guy has 900. So even if you write your listing in a way to where you could cash out 1,000, it doesn't mean you're going to get 1,000. It doesn't mean you're going to outrank them.
Yeah.
Because you've only put enough credits in the based on performance in that account of 500. Yeah. So you don't need to write your listing or your title with that exact phrase, because you get about half credit for a phrase match. Right? You don't need that exact. So a phrase match would be enough to get you that credit to still be ranked number 3. So what you need to do is you need to rewrite your listing in a way, monitor the keyword movements, right? Up, down, neutral, and then start to really map out and understand what is the ideal way that I can, with my current credit, assuming my conversion rate stays the same, my click-through rate stays the same, my performance stays the same relative to my competitors, and my competitor landscape doesn't change, because that's also important, right? Because it's all relative and they can improve too, or if it get worse. But relative to my competition, the current landscape, what is the ideal way for me to write my listing where I'm utilizing each spot in my listing and each match type ideally in my listing to maximize my opportunity to rank for the maximum number of keywords and a maximum amount of search volume to maximize my sales organically. Yeah. That's the key. The other part of that makes it a little bit more complicated too, though, is that your PPC placement and performance is also impacted by how much juice you're trying to get, based on how you write your listing. So just because your organic rank has a cap doesn't mean that your PPC has a cap, because your PPC might be performing, again, relative to your competition better. And so by having that exact term, you might be top of search page 1, but once you go to your phrase match, you're no longer going to be able to rank number 1. You might fall to middle of page 1 for your ad performance, even though your organic didn't move. So it's very complicated. There's a lot of things to be looking at. It's way more than one person can maybe do manually. It takes a lot of hours of testing, watching, waiting for updates. That's where data dive is going to start to really, I think, kill everybody.
Going back to, like you said, algorithm, glass, I talk about sending a glass eye to sleep. So that's why it's important to try and approach it in the right way. Going back to exactly what you said about the micro credits from a different perspective, meaning similar things to you, I call it in a way that if I explain it to someone, is instead of building your listing as a flat vector, title, bullet points, think of a 3D process that you go through. And what I mean by 3D process, if you think about what the microcredits are, negative and positive labels in the A9 algorithm. The positive labels, add to cart, scrolling, time on site, which is what the 3D approach is engagement. And so as the algorithm is making its calculations, let's just say someone lands on the listing, bumps off. There's no microcredits. That is a negative label versus a positive label. But they might come to your listing, right? Because you've got to get the nuances in between. They come to your listing, they click on the images, they scroll down, they're spending time on site, they're engaging, then they add to cart, but they don't buy in that instance. But with the micro movements that are taking place and investing on the timing page and the engagement, and it's really a thought process. Think about how I can keep them there engaging, not just, really good, clever sales copy, not just really nice images. If you take it up a dimension, think about how do you keep these people here and heavily engaged? It's just another way of looking at it to maximize your microcredits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's such a fascinating topic to me, and I love digging into the data and understanding how it works.
So we've gone off subject a little bit because we've got on the geeky one. 2021. Let's roll from there.
2021 was a great year for us. We really started to figure things out and bring focus to what we needed to do, right? We were kind of running as fast as we could in a few different directions, but we didn't understand how to set the right goals. We didn't understand how to set the right org chart, how to hire. So that was the big year for us to really make that breakthrough. And that we owe it all to our CEO coach. He was phenomenal in allowing us to really bring focus to that and to give us really strong practices, like the different types of calls we do, the different types of worksheets we fill out, the different types of training we're doing, understanding who to hire, how to hire, get the right butts in the right seats, right? If you don't even know what seat that is that you're supposed to be hiring for, how do you hire for it, right? So
exactly,
it really brought a lot of those things into focus to help us understand how to go to that next level. And even then, we started to realize, like halfway through the year, that that what we were doing was a Band-Aid. Mm-hmm. We needed to start thinking about how do we build a company that can go to 50 to 100 million, right? Like, what does that look like? Because we want to go fast. We want to build. This year, we made the decision last year. We also want to acquire a brand as well. Our goal with our toy brand is we decided we wanted to go also to retail as a channel, so B2B and retail. So we opened up an account on Fair, and I tell you, with very little effort, we've opened up over 700 doors, doing almost nothing.
Wow.
And so we have all these customers that are reordering from us. We're doing tens of thousands of dollars a month. Really just we had to put the supply chain into place. We had to put the fulfillment into place. At that point, we hired a full-time retail sales rep who has a lot of years of experience, who's helping us to, get the branding in a position where retailers would be excited about it. Our branding was strong, but it was more of like, how do we position it so that, Target is interested instead of, random person with a toy store in a mall, right? So packaging, messaging, supply chain, logistics for retail all become a new animal that we have to figure out and tackle in 2021. We were supposed to set up a toy fair that was supposed to happen this month in New York, and it got canceled, unfortunately. So that's how serious we are about going and bringing that brand to a major spotlight. So yeah, we have a lot of goals with that brand, and it all wouldn't be possible without the right focus, without the right organization, without the right idea of how to scale properly, how to build a real business. So that's what we've learned, and that's what I'm also starting to teach more and more in the inner circle. You know, because we have a lot of 7 and 8 figure sellers. We have over 300 7 and 8 figure sellers in our mastermind. Yeah. And a lot of them are in the same crunch. Like Antonio commented, you flashed his comment. He's a 7+ figure seller. He might do 8. How does he go to 9, right? Like, how does he go to 50 million? And like you said earlier too, not everyone wants to.
That's my point. This is where I want to, because we're coming up to the close. We've covered everything in terms of scaling. You're on beat for 25 mil. Why are you not selling? You know, right now is the multiples aren't going to get much higher. We know that it's going to come. It's starting to come down already. I've seen movement in the market where multiples are coming down. What is possessing you to keep going at 8 figures when you and Jennifer could cash out, never look back? But I know that you still want to be an entrepreneur, but take a huge chunk of money off the table. You've got all the skill set, go again. You've got the software, you've got your training school or your educational platform. Do you see what I mean? What is your drive to keep going and going and going? Because I
think there's a couple of things there for us for sure.
Yeah.
One is that if I sell all the brands, then I become a fake guru, right? If I'm still making more money from my coaching or from my brands than I am from coaching.
No, you just exited a 25 million company. And you took money off the table.
Yeah,
that doesn't make you a fake.
But you know, things change so often on Amazon that 3 months from now, I'm probably out of the loop.
No, I'm not saying. I mean, go again, meaning take a big chunk of money off the table. You know, it's like some people can go and build 100 million companies. Something goes wrong, like sometimes something can go drastically wrong, and you're worth 100 million, and then overnight, it's not. Do you see what I mean? And it comes down, down, and down. Do you have a strike point of where you?
I might sell one of my smaller brands, like the travel brand. It's really recovered. We added some kids' luggage and some other things to it, so I might sell that smaller brand in the next few months. Deciding. I have a few SKUs that I'm designing for it to add. I was going to sell it last year, but it was still so new after COVID, or so soon after COVID, that it was still a little down. And it had just flatlined for a year because we didn't really launch any new products. So I might sell like a combination of those smaller travel brands for a few $1 million this year.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You still, you
take a little bit off the table, like walk through the process of exiting, things like that. I think it comes down to enough, right? Like so here, like you said, there are a lot of people that don't have the capability to go to 8 figures, right? Like growing a team, hiring, training, managing, it's not what they enjoy doing. It's not what they're good at, and they don't want to do it. And happiness.
And they didn't get in it to do that. It landed.
Yeah, Amazon just became this side hustle that turned into this $1 million business for them, and they can take $1 million off the table and change their lives. Yes, do that. Like, especially if that affords you the life that's going to make you happiest. I think Jennifer and I both enjoy the challenge. We both enjoy the thing. And if it wasn't for the fact that we really feel that this toy brand has the potential, the branding, the name, the information, like the SKUs, to go to 100 million, to be that next big toy brand in the space, then I probably would be exiting. If it was just another one of those Me Too type brands, then I would probably be exiting. But I think that we have the opportunity to really take it to that next level, which is exciting for us. So it's the challenge as well. We enjoy the journey too, right?
What's that? Yeah, you enjoyed the journey. But what is the next level, and where does that level stop? Where would are you trying to get to 500 million? What is, if you say about the next level, what are these levels up? Do you have if you were to crystallize right now in your mind what that end level looks like, that's when you exit, or you plan to never exit and just keep going and going and going? What's the future?
The exit for that brand is definitely 9 figures. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's 100 million or if it's 500 million. But the thing is this: we just hired a toy designer for the first time who has 14 plus years experience with Hasbro and Mattel. He's excellent at customizing and creating and engineering custom toys that have the ability to get major licensing. We just hired our first retail sales rep. We're looking to hire more and grow that team. So now we're looking at one order can be worth millions and millions of dollars from Target or something, right? So, and if we do get a major licensing deal, let's say we design something amazing and it becomes like something that can be an Avengers thing or a Marvel thing or a Disney thing. You know, we have stuff that works well for that already. That's millions and millions of dollars in revenue and adds to that valuation bump as well. And allows you to then take that to retail and then open those floodgates, right? So I think that we want to see what that is before we exit, right? I feel like we're a little too early. I think that we got a taste of what that can be from retail, from design, from new product development to it's not just enough to just go to the factories and rely on their engineers to take a new design and then try to get exclusivity on it.
Yeah.
And it's not enough to just open up a bunch of retail stores. There's so much out there. I think that if we follow a roadmap, we're looking at like Melissa and Doug. We have a lot of preschool toys. We have a lot of educational toys, but we make some for older kids. We make some outdoor toys that they might not make. And I think that if we saw that they're $1 billion brand, why? It's just their name. They're not Disney, right? So we know that the opportunity is there and we know that we can do it and we just enjoy it. So I think that if we figured out how to do it too, I think if we had continued, we had some margin compression last year, like everybody else, selling the brand now while things are hard too. We feel like the bigger we get, the more advantage we have, that it's going to be harder to duplicate to get to this scale again. Like you can create a 7-figure brand and sell it and keep doing that. But the advantage is really going to move as products become more commoditized. Branding is going to become more important. Content's going to become more important. To have this big structure of a team that can pump out custom content and test 5 different main images on a brand new product launch in the first 7 days because we have the team that does it in-house. You can't support that with a brand new brand, right? Like you can't. A lot of people can't support that type of investment and that type of growth. So those advantages become incremental and bigger as you scale. And I think that we just want to continue to double down in that direction.
Yeah. What about with your students? Do you encourage them to sell if they're not that mindset to go?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think it's an amazing opportunity to sell. I think it's starting to pull back a little bit. I think brands are getting smarter. The aggregators are getting smarter. They're starting to get a little bit more picky. Multiples are coming down on products that aren't, brands that aren't real brands that, So we have a lot of teaching around it. And I said, look, what it comes down to is what you enjoy doing, right?
Yeah.
I always say that the number one thing, and it's cheesy as hell, and like a bunch of those motivational guys they'll say this shit and you roll your eyes, but the reality is like happiness should be your guiding light. Like it should be your North Star. Yeah. If you're happy working the type of hours that it requires to be successful and take a business to 8 figures, and you enjoy the journey and you enjoy the struggles and the brand building and the team building, and starting new products and repeating those processes over and over and then figuring shit out, then do that. If you hear everything that we've been through and you say, I would hate my life if I did that, don't do it.
Yeah. Do something that you will enjoy and excel at. Yeah.
Yeah. Do what you enjoy. You can find a product, learn the process. There's multiple huge learning curves: product selection, keyword research, like logistics and sourcing and content and PPC and all of those are amazing, huge learning curves. You can walk all of those processes on your first product, knock it out of the park, and sell your brand for hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's a real thing that I've seen done many times. You can take just you and a VA can have 5 to 10, 15 SKUs and sell your brand for millions of dollars. I've seen that done. And so, do what makes you happy. That's still a huge opportunity to do that.
Cool. Let's end that here. I think we're coming up to 75 minutes now, but thank you for taking out your time today.
I always enjoy it, Danny. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Hope a lot of people learned from a lot of this stuff today that we've been discussing. I know it wasn't just a show of, oh yeah, this is scaling SOPs. I think it was important to have the context to go through that and the whys of wheres when you are scaling, bringing on the coach and stuff like that. Any final thoughts before we shoot off?
Man, I'm just looking forward to hanging out finally in Vegas. We haven't been able to hang out.
Yeah, we didn't mention that. So you've got something going on. I mentioned it on the show last week. I've done one on conferences, and I covered in there that yours is Sunday night, right? So
yeah, Sunday night we're doing 9 to 12 at Topgolf. It's always great. We have a whole dedicated bar area and patio. You don't need to golf, but we have 14 bays you can jump on and hit some golf balls. Open bar. We're doing open bar and desserts, so we're not serving dinner. It's 9 o'clock, so eat before you get there. But you'll be able to eat fruit and cake and cookies and drink and mingle with some 250 amazing people.
Yeah, cool. Tickets on sale now, yeah.
Yeah, I did a bit.ly just to make it easy to figure out. It's bit.ly/topgolf22, all lowercase.
Yeah, so cool. And then also on Sunday, you've got the official pool party, which is for Prosper, the organisers. Then on Monday, 5 till 7, if you've got a ticket at Prosper and the trade show, they're doing after drinks at the back there from 5 till 7. Then you've got Helium 10 party. Tuesday's a packed one. We kick things off at Skyfall, 5 till 8 p.m. That's free entry, but invite only. So just if you sign up, it's on my pages. You pick some guys may have got a mailer as well. So I'll be DJing from 5 till 8 p.m. Mainly 7 and 8 figure sellers, few influencers, if you like to call them that. Or
a lot of I don't know if all your listeners know your background in DJing, and how does it feel to get back behind the turntables after
Yeah, it's a lot different because nowadays it's more hip hop and R&B and dance music. I only play the classics because it's a conference. If you start trying to play underground shit, you lose people. So the whole point is like, whereas before I was making records and playing dub plates, my own stuff, this time round you're more like a party DJ. But you're still having fun. But no, it's fun as long as everyone else is having fun. And you know what? The conference crowds are tougher because they're more generalized in their musical taste. But you know what I have been working on? I haven't nailed it yet, but I've been working on, from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
From their performance.
Yeah.
Obviously, they re-recorded everything for that. But I've got the original track. So... and they're all different tempos and stuff like that. So I've been trying to work out the exact same sequence, but from a DJ perspective. And it's going to drop that and see if anyone recognizes that within that 3-hour period. But no, it'd be interesting. I haven't done any in America. Obviously, I do them at Seller Sessions. I've got another up in America. On the Australia tour, I'll be doing it there. I'm DJing and speaking in Ireland in Belfast in April. So the plan is not to DJ at every gig, of course. It's just certain gigs where the vibe's right. In Ireland, they love to party. In America, they love to party. In London, they love to party. In Australia, they love to party. But not so much in certain other territories. It's not going to get that right blend. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. That's with, obviously, Yao from Fortinet, Yao Kabili. They're putting that on. But yeah, it should be a good time. 7-8 figure sellers. It's free entry, costing us an absolute fortune, mate. Absolute fortune. They nickel and dime you on everything. Absolutely everything. If raindrops come down the window, you're paying for it. So it's going to be a very expensive night, laying on food, laying on drinks and stuff like that. So that's our one on Tuesday. And then straight after that, you've got Rich Goldstein. So he's got a private party there. Do a search on the web for Rich Goldstein Vegas party. I think there's still some openings there. Tim Georgian's doing something, but that's 11 till 4 a.m. on a Tuesday night. And apparently Howard Ty's got something on from midnight on Wednesday. I know a lot of people tend to fly home on the Wednesday, but there are still some of us in till Friday because you've got St. Patrick's Day on Thursday. So I'm going to need a new liver and I'll be on a ventilator by the end of the week. So
Hey,
I'm not.
it's my nephew's birthday on St. Patrick's Day, and
Yeah,
he's coming into town, so I am leaving Wednesday night,
yeah.
but not until like midnight. So I'm hoping I can find some places to hang out, have some dinner. I'm just
Well, you
looking
can.
forward to seeing everybody.
Yeah. On Wednesday, you can come hang out with us. There's Destaney, Yana. There's loads of people still going to hang around, but I think the majority, once, let's just
Yeah.
say 60% will be 60 to 75% of people would have left Prosper at some point on Wednesday, but there'll be a few stragglers left hanging over for a few more days, even if it's to rest up in the hotel to get over Sunday, Monday, and
I might
Tuesday
have to
night.
actually try one of those oxygen bars and IV bars for the first time.
Yeah, I haven't. Do you know what? I pitched the idea to an aggregator for the last one. I said, do you know what you should do? You should get people IVs because they're spending money on sponsorship. I said, have you thought about doing IVs? And that you can effectively say, not only do we buy your business, we take care of your health as well. Do you know what I mean? But I think the IVs are like $300 a pop or something.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's
Holy shit.
Yeah, so it's reasonably, I'd say reasonably priced, but you can't have one of those a day. And let's be honest, I think, there's only so many vitamins you can pack in your body. If you've been boozing all night, you won't get to day 2 or 3 and go, don't worry, have an IV, and then you go, oh look, I've got no hangover. That's not going to happen. You might get away with it once.
Well, I am definitely gonna try. There are a lot of hangover medicines, different things you can take, different drinks you can pop before you start the night. I'm gonna try a bunch of those because otherwise, I'm getting old, man. I hit 40
I'm
this
older
year.
than you. You're 40. I'm 46. So
Yeah, we need to take care of our liver.
Exactly. Cool. All right, let's sign off here. We sound like a couple of drunks otherwise. Best way to catch you up.
Seller-systems.com is the best way. There's a free masterclass. You can learn our methods for free and see if it's right for you. We have our public Facebook group, Seller Systems and Data Dive. You can check that out and just shoot me a DM somewhere.
Cool. Thank you, guys. I'll be back here again tomorrow. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love. And I'll see you back here again soon.